are in Toronto, TerrAscend on the TSX. How does that sound?
It sounds awesome. It sounds awesome. I really did not, it seemed so far away for so long that I can't believe it's here. It was actually this morning I woke up, sort of didn't know where I was. I was in a new hotel room and all that. I woke up, I looked around, and then it just sort of hit me. And I was really, we're all really excited.
A little surreal, I would say, is I can't believe I'm actually here going down to the TSX, and you have the first U.S. cannabis multi-state operator that's listing on the TSX. So what does this listing now mean for your company? And is this a turn, basically you're turning the corner, I should say, for the overall industry, would you say?
We hope so. We hope so. I mean, I don't want to, make this whole thing out bigger than it is, but it is, we believe that this is sort of the final piece of what we needed to pull together to be an independent company. And when we say independent, we mean independent of the need for U.S. regulatory reform.
Yeah.
We started that last year, made a lot of changes to our business, cut expenses, got ourselves to positive cash flow. But this is truly, as everybody knows, the cost of capital is so expensive in the cannabis space. Debt, interest rates are extremely high. We feel like being on a major exchange is going to, as long as we continue to execute, should really lower our cost of capital and be that final piece of what we needed to be independent.
Have you heard much from some of the peers of in the industry?
I've heard a little. We've heard a lot of, hey, we're waiting to see what happens with you. Yeah, they didn't quite say that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, any of them, they should be. You would think they should be rooting for this to turn out well, because it could be a solution for them as well.
Yeah.
But sometimes egos get in the way of that. I'm sure. But we've generally heard a lot of supportive statements from others, and just personally, it's been a lot of, we're going to wait and see what happens with you. It's a little bit of a bigger lift for us to do that, but we hope it works out for you, and then we're going to follow you.
So I want to backtrack a little bit, because this is a side that we haven't really asked you since you've been on a few times with our podcast, but take me back, was it 2017?
Yeah.
That you started with the company?
Yep.
And were you kind of like on the fence of whether or not you should get into cannabis? Is that how it all unfolded?
No, I had been investing starting in 2014
Okay.
in cannabis. I was one of the earlier investors in Canopy Growth and a couple of the other Canadian LPs.
Yeah.
So we invested only in Canada, and then and even through 17.
Have changed.
Oh yeah, amazing. But even through 17, when we first made our investment in TerrAscend, we were only doing Canada. I was actually worried about getting arrested living in New York and doing a perp walk or something in the Southern District of New York. In 2017, it sort of hit me. I was actually sitting down with Bruce Linton from Canopy Growth in late 17, and I had met with I was up here in a conference, and I met with a bunch of companies that I was invested in, some other ones, and I remember saying to Bruce, man, the level of competition here does not seem very high. I said, I feel like we could start something sort of from scratch and be a real competitor in this space. And he loved the idea and said, you should definitely do it, and we'd love to be involved. And it ended up about a week later, we had this opportunity with TerrAscend sort of fell in our lap, where there was a big block of one of the holders of about 30% of the stock. We were shown his block of stock.
Yep.
And I said, hold off. I want to go up and meet with the company again. I had invested in TerrAscend in January of 17, a small investment. But I said, I want to go up to the company, let's go up and visit and see if we can work on a private placement. And between the private placement and the block, we should have a pretty substantial stake and feel like it's sort of like our platform. So that's what we did. I went up to Canada, met with the founders, convinced them to take a $52 million private placement. Stock had like a $50 million market cap at the time.
Yeah.
And what do they say? The rest is history. That was November of 17, and Canopy Growth co-invested in that deal with us.
Think of how much has changed since then.
Oh man, it feels like 20 years ago or something.
Just say that company in general, right? Here we are 6 years later in Toronto on a summer morning, listing on the TSX. How did this all come together? Like, when did the conversation start happening?
That original investment I mentioned that Canopy made into the company, about 7 months later, we went to them and said, hey, we want to go to the U.S.
Oh, so this has been going on for a good 5 years then?
Yes, exactly. So the TSX was amenable to to allowing Canopy to still hold their shares. They actually technically had to turn them into the exchangeable share structure that we know that they're in today. And then over the years, about a year later, we got a loan from Canopy where the money was lent to our Canadian subsidiary. It was sort of like a synthetic convert where they had warrants to step into ownership of the U.S. shares, which they just did with that equitization back in this past December.
Right.
So we've had a dialogue with the TSX for several years, as I've mentioned, and we're truly, I believe, one of the only Canadian LPs that almost completely pivoted their business into the U.S. So we're really, we're a Canadian domiciled company, and
it's a unique story.
Yeah, sure. I think that our sort of roots really helped us here in terms of our relationship with the TSX and what's going on.
What is that like? Like, how have they been? I assume that they're pretty ecstatic.
They have been really, really great. I mean, they have been very collaborative, very responsive, and yeah, we feel like they're as excited about this, maybe almost excited about this as we are.
What was their first conversation when you wanted to list, say, 4 or 5 years ago, to like what it is now? Like, what's changed, would you find?
Yeah, we never even, 4 or 5 years ago, it was more about what they would allow with Canopy in terms of already being an owner and what type of structure they would need to have, and then the loan later. But really, we didn't dig in a serious conversation with them about listing until this past October. It was when Canopy announced that they were stepping into their ownership of Acreage and Jetty and Wana, and that they were going to stay on the TSX and the NASDAQ. And that sort of rekindled our conversations with them. It sort of told us what they would allow and what they wouldn't allow. And we went to them and said, well, we could do something similar structure-wise.
So then it started to move fast.
It started to move really fast, and they've been, since pretty much January of this year, it's been moving very quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say, clearly anyone would realize an advantage that you have now, but if you were to really explain to a group of institutional investors what this opportunity brings and the advantage that you have within the space, what would your words be? We've
said many times that this isn't a magic bullet. Like if we don't continue to execute on our business, then it doesn't matter if we have a listing on any exchange. But I sort of look at it, especially the last 3 quarters or so, we've really turned our business around in a tough environment. And it's sort of like when you're on a much smaller exchange with less participants, we looked at it as like a tree that fell in the woods that nobody heard because there just weren't enough people listening. On a larger exchange like the TSX, we feel like we should get that audience where people will see and hear what we're doing on a quarterly basis more often, and just get that recognition. And it expands the universe of potential investors in a huge way.
Well, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Raised $20 million?
Last week, maybe? I'm losing track of time.
I know, time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But obviously this TSX listing was very helpful in a situation like that because these are not easy times right now. But for any kind of optimism, I feel like there's still some things up in the air, and I don't want to get into legislation conversation, but there's definitely some positive momentum that's building, I think, in the space compared to what it was even as little as like back at the Benzinga conference in April. Don't you think?
I think so, and so I think there are for the right companies. I think there are opportunities here, and hopefully with our listing on the TSX, that'll even improve. But there's definitely, I think what frustrated me a year ago or 2 years ago is all of these stocks pretty much moved in unison. And now there's starting to be some separation. And I think just from following the market over the years, that you need that. You can't just have a whole group move up and down at once. Now that there's been some separation, I think that well-run companies, well-financed companies should be able to do well in the space.
All right, so we're downtown. We are at the TSX, and here we go.
Here we are. Excited, emotional. In our journey to this point, we have embraced each obstacle as an opportunity for growth. We have fostered a culture of innovation that allows us to adapt and thrive in an ever-evolving industry. To our valued investors, I want to express my gratitude for the trust you have placed in us. Your support fuels our ambition, and we are committed to delivering long-term value and sustainable growth. Together, we will navigate the market dynamics, seize opportunity, and create a brighter future. To our dedicated employees, I extend my heartfelt appreciation for your unwavering commitment to our vision. It is your talent, passion, and dedication that have brought us to this point, and I am confident that with your continued dedication and hard work, we will achieve even greater heights. Finally, I would like to thank the Toronto Stock Exchange for providing us with this remarkable platform. We are proud to be part of this esteemed community. Today, we celebrate our past accomplishments and look forward to the exciting possibilities that lie ahead. Our listing on the Toronto Stock Exchange marks the beginning of a new era for our company, and we are ready to embrace the opportunities and challenges that come our way. Thank you all for joining us on this momentous occasion. Together, let us create a future that is defined by innovation and shared success. Thank you.
Investors watching this, forward-thinking statements. Do you think indexes will start coming in right away?
That's what we're told. We're told that the indexes will be coming in pretty quickly, and I believe we qualify from a market cap perspective. That should have a pretty good influence because, as you know, this is the stock doesn't trade a whole lot.
Yeah.
If the company is under accumulation by a larger sort of population of potential investors, we think that the stock should work as long as we continue to execute.
Yeah. What's this say about the company today?
I feel like I was thinking about it earlier in terms of we feel like we are leaders in the space, and I sort of used the analogy with somebody else. It was like when Apple was a fraction of the size of Microsoft, but they were sort of seen as the leader in the space. You don't have to be the biggest, right? And that's something that I remember saying. I think it was the first time I went out to visit, when we first invested, went out and visited the folks, I said, we don't need to be the biggest, or I'm not focused on being the biggest cannabis business in the world or in the country. We want to be the best. And if we're the best, then there's a good chance that we'll be the biggest by choice over time. Yeah. And that's where I think we are.
How's this sound? TerrAscend trades on the TSX under the ticker symbol TSND.
It's
big day.
Music to my ears. Music to my ears.
Best of luck.
Long time coming. Thanks, man.
All right, man.
Appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
What's up, everyone? So what'd you think of the interview? Are there any more questions you want us to ask that you want to learn more of? Then leave a comment below and let us know what you think. As usual, share this video with your network, smash that like button, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.